Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. Also, Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. Today, GSD is 176 companies from 73 countries around the world. We scale them. We've got GSD Reach as our PR company. We also have an advisory services group. The idea is to create an integrated ecosystem to be able to help those companies hyperscale faster than anybody has ever done before. And with that, I have an incredible guest today. I'd like to introduce Kyle McAllister, the co-founder and CEO of Trialite. He's building at the intersection of the traditional provider EHR world and clinical trials, following along on the journey as he created this incredible company. And it's not his first, by the way. He's got a data analytics background, went to school in Arizona, and we're going to talk about it a little. Going to Kansas City, must like the beef because that's the best place for beef I've ever seen. Anyhow, Kyle, I got that. Why did you move to Kansas City?
I mean, it's the kind of the story of everybody, every 30-something-year-old male in Kansas City. My wife was originally from here. So it's there's a joke here that all son-in-laws move to Kansas City, but it's a great city, actually. I'm not giving it justice. I love Kansas City, originally from Phoenix, but been here about 10 years. So
you like the weather?
Yeah, it's okay. We're good. We might have a tornado tonight and about 3 inches of rain, but we had a beautiful weekend. So, compared to, I've been in Wisconsin and Phoenix, and compared to those extremes, it's nice to kind of be somewhere in the middle.
It was interesting because when I was out in Wichita, I'll never forget. So I was on Rock Road by the mall, and there was a siren went off. And there was an alert on my radio, and I'm like, "What is this?" And there was a nuclear base, Air Force base, was there. I don't know if it's still there, but it was there at the time. And I thought, "Oh my God, I think we're going to, nuclear war or something." And so I'm driving along, and I had a Porsche Targa. I'm driving down the highway, and I see dark clouds out there, and I'm thinking, "This does not look good." And the radio goes on, and there's a warning that there's a possible tornado coming in. It didn't touch down, but I was like, and then, so I just pulled into a parking garage and it started to hail, and I'd never seen hail like golf balls before. Yeah. And I'm like, this stuff could I had this beautiful new Targa. I thought this stuff could ruin my car. It was unbelievable. But the people were so nice. It was such an incredibly nice place. And it was interesting. When one day it was summer, the next day it was freaking winter. It was like there was no in between season.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And the food, they said, "You want to go out and have surf and turf?" I said, "Sure." They take me out. We had catfish and beefsteak, and the steak must have been 40 ounces. I never seen anything like it in my life, right?
Surf and turf. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's go down through. Let's talk about where you are. So can you share your journey leading to the founding of Trialite and what inspired you to venture into healthcare technology entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick, but I'll go back a little bit. I've always wanted to go to med school in early days, all the way through high school is what motivated me through college. Even though I got a business degree, I always had this idea of going to medical school. But right before I was about to apply, I thought I'm going to take 1 year and go, get a normal job, see what it's like before I apply to medical school. And that job was Epic. So I went and worked for Epic Medical Records, the big electronic health record company, and fell in love with it. So I actually still applied to med school, got in, I was about to go. And then I thought, every doctor that I'm working with here at Epic is kind of miserable. So maybe I should stay with the thing that I really like doing. And so got into that. I've always had a passion.
I did the same thing. So what happened to me, I'm a clinical psychologist, right? And I was going to go to medical school after psychology. And so I'll never forget. So I walked into a computer store, and I go into the computer store, and there's a guy standing alongside of me, and we were looking at Commodore computers many, many years ago and early Apples. And I'm sitting there talking to him. I said, "Boy, you seem to really like this. I do like this." I said, how long have you been in technology? He said, well, I got in a couple of years ago. I said, what were you doing before that? He said, I was a psychiatrist. I said, that's what I wanted to do right after psychology. I thought I'll go to medical school and be a psychiatrist. And I said, why didn't you do it? He said, it really sucks. And I said, I'm not going to do it was like everything I had wanted to do, like it stopped right there. And I was in the computer store and I got involved in technology. And it was that guy, wherever you are, if you're listening to my show, thank you. I really appreciate it. You moved me in the right direction. But yeah, so you were going to do that. And then you founded, your founding and vision of Trialite. What gap in the healthcare system does Trialite aim to fill?
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, but the core of it is the clinical trials space. In traditional healthcare, the provider, payer side of the world, we would always joke that we're 10 years behind the rest of the world from a technology perspective. And I spent 10 to 15 years in that world. But about 5 years ago, I got into clinical trials and realized that's 10 years behind even that. The amount of manual process that happens to this day, we want to talk about where AI is going. There's clinical research coordinators reading through paper charts right now, trying to find patients for studies or reading with their eyeballs through electronic health records. It just really blew my mind. And so getting into that space and realizing this wasn't a small problem for a small group that I was working with, it's a problem everywhere. And having that problem set collide with my two co-founders who were both at Zapier at the time doing machine learning and data engineering, realizing, hey, we could automate big chunks of this work kind of across the full clinical trial spectrum. That's what got me excited. The other thing that got me really excited about it is I spent 10 to 15 years bringing providers onto these electronic health records where the big promise was we're going to digitize all of this data and actually do something with it. And up until now, we kind of haven't done anything with it. It's really like they've been putting in all this data. I've been spending 10 years saying like, hey, doc, if you write a free text note about your patient, that's going to be gone. Like SQL can't find that, right? And then what really inspired me personally to start Trialite was when my two co-founders came in and showed me that LLMs could read through all that and could actually make use of all that. Totally blew my mind. It was like, this thing is going to change the way healthcare uses data entirely. So that was probably more than you were bargaining for on that question. But
Kyle, the thing is, it's like, my dog had stage 3 cancer and, stage 3, then stage 4. And we developed my Basset Hound. And, so I work on multi-agent large language models, multimodal large language models, those models running on top of quantum computers, right? Which 100 million times faster and faster supercomputer, which would take 10,000 years, takes me 200 seconds, like that kind of order of magnitude difference.
Yeah.
And what happened is, I went out and just for the heck of it, I thought, well, listen, I have all these tools. I've been in AI a long time too. I was a shrink and came over from that side of it. So I understand a little bit about it. Why don't I go in and try the model just for the heck of it? So I went in the model and I said, listen, here's what I have. And I took all the diagnosis that I had on my dog. And I had 3 veterinarians. And I said, what can I do to help my dog? And it said, well, there's really 3 places that can do it. There was a guy at Yale University. There was a veterinarian in Seattle. And there was a group down in Kentucky that could build the vaccine. And at a molecular level. And I said, well, what does it need to look like? Right. I started asking questions. I was stunned. It was unbelievable. So within 2 weeks, we had a cancer vaccine that was built.
Is that right?
Vaccine. Yeah. And for my dog got the vaccine and went in complete remission of then stage 4 cancer. And I mean, I was stunned, Kyle, seriously stunned. And, it's a longer story and I'll tell you a little bit about it. But what it did for me is it helped me understand that, in 2016, I built one of the first generative AI companies 3 years before OpenAI. So it's a company called Eva, your virtual assistant. Finder before that, and then Eva. We built this stuff. Then we had 19 patents. And I started saying, what could we apply this for? Everything. Because the problem is, in Kyle's words, infobesity. There's too much data. Think about it. You're a really smart guy, but you got 300,000 items in your personal cloud. The
Yep.
entire web, Kyle, in 1996 was 257,000 websites. You,
Yeah.
Kyle, have more information in your personal cloud than the entire web. Kyle's trajectory is the same level. By that, I mean doubling every year. In
Yep.
5 years with IoT, you're going to have 10 million items. Think about this. Smart guy, right? But how many times the last 2 weeks somebody said, hey, Kyle, sent you a message? Where'd you send it? I sent it to your email. Which one? I think
Yep.
my corporate, but I don't know, maybe Yahoo or Gmail. Let me check. I can't find it. Will you send it again?
Yeah.
You know that file exists, but you can't find it. Now think of all those digital treasures you have.
Yeah.
We are in psychology, when you get to the point of overcompensation, when you have too much thrown at you, it's called learned helplessness. You get paralyzed. People don't even check their email anymore.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, I've talked to the head of quantum labs of some of the most famous universities in the world who have the same problem. We
Hmm.
need to solve it. The medical problem, it's not that there aren't cures. Listen, I had 100 million stem cells put in my body, right? I had stage 3 kidney disease.
Hmm.
2 times I had 50 million stem cells from umbilical cords
Hmm.
put in Thailand by the number one doctor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And my kidney disease went away.
Really?
All my wrinkles went away. Everything changed. Seriously.
You do look great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I went down and did it. And I said, well, why don't other people do it?
Hmm.
Mel Gibson's father went in. Mel Gibson's father had problems with his heart. He was 92 years old or 91 years old. He lived 102.
Wow.
Right? There's tools out there, but people don't know about them.
Yeah.
And so, when you went down through and did this, how did you, this is a point, how do you stay informed and adaptive in the rapidly evolving healthcare technology space with all the infobesity? How do you do it?
What a question. I mean, it does come down to network and, got my lights flipped off here. It does come down to network, staying connected to the folks that are the most connected and staying on top of this stuff. But there's a lot. I mean, there's like you said, it's continuing to grow. It's continuing. There's more, especially from what other startups are out there doing interesting things, or what are staying on top of competitive intelligence. It's changing so quickly that
And how do you
it's
do
not.
it? Think about it, Kyle. The problem is, right? I don't know about you, but I'm using some extremely advanced AI models myself personally.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we're able to do, you're like a symphony conductor. When you can do this, you have the superpowers.
Yeah.
True
Yeah.
superpowers. There's
Yeah.
stuff that you can do that's, I took my wife has cancer, right? And I took her diagnosis, I took all her files and I put it in to the same system I did with my dog, right? And that's another show. But anyhow, instantly, it went out to everything on the internet, everything.
Yeah.
And it came back and it was so darn precise. And I had a doctor from MD Anderson, and MD Anderson is one of the top cancer schools in the country, right? And one of my friends is an oncologist there, and actually, it was uncanny what this thing came back with, right?
Yeah.
Uncanny. So for all of us out there, tools like Trialite to be able to help us understand where we should go, and to be able to help us do drug trials. How much faster, because using your technology, can you do a drug trial compared to the current way it's done?
I mean, the current way is so archaic that it's hard to even say, frankly. I mean, the steps that are required and the number of middlemen in the entire process make it difficult to even answer that question. But it's a multi-year, many, many $1 million process. Maybe to cut it down to something more specific, in the startup period of a clinical trial, it can be anywhere from 18 to 24, maybe even longer months from where a trial is ready to begin all the way to first patients enrolled in the study. And there's no reason technically now that if we get the data connected, you can take that 18-month process that includes hundreds of humans and make it a week, a couple days with one person running all of it. Load a protocol, look across a large data set, find the right places to run the trial, and boom, start calling those patients and enrolling them into the trial the next day. That's where we're headed, is like, let this giant 18-month process, we could drastically cut this down. And so, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of examples like that throughout this. That's only one segment of the clinical trial, overall clinical trial landscape.
Yeah, I just used my multi-agent large language model and it pulled some stuff out, right? About
Tell me.
you.
Tell me.
90% reduction in manual chart review hours, decreasing from 36 to 2.5 hours per month.
Yep.
73% decrease in screen failure rates, reducing from 54 to 14, leading to higher quality patient matches. 2 to 3 times increase in monthly patient enrollment, effectively double the site's enrollment rate. Um, the exact percentage in trial, this is from my multi-agent large language model.
Yeah.
Improvement in overall trial speed can vary depending on the specific study implementation. However, Trialite's approach aligns with broader trends in decentralized clinical trials, which when so accelerate recruitment and enrollment increases up to 4 times that compared to a normal trial. Just FYI.
Yeah. I mean, decentralized or not,
I think that's conservative, by the way. I think it's a lot more than that, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, decentralized or not, too. I mean, even there's a lot of these trials where it happens physically at an actual site because there's a physician, you need to have a drug administered, et cetera, which, by the way, a lot of that could get decentralized over time. But even at that level, there's so much inefficiency. That 90% that you called out, that 90% in chart review time, what's actually happening in real life with most clinical trial sites, which includes the largest hospital systems you can think of, is they have a small army of research assistants who are literally reading through patients' charts trying.
Exactly. And how much do they miss? That's the other thing, Kyle. There's one thing about missing something that when it's not critical to your health, there's another thing of missing something when it's going to kill you.
Yep. The other thing that's really interesting in that point is how could that missing something when it's going to kill you is like we're putting so much on an individual physician to try to remember too. There's so many clinical trials happening at any given moment, and how could any?
And the doctors have that infobesity. I have a doctor from Yale, right, and that's kind of one of the companies. And Amos, if you're listening to it, Amos Dare, MedMatch Network, and doctors are inundated, right?
Yep.
They have too much. They can't figure it out,
Yep.
and so I mean, you become a key part of these omni-channel engines that can solve things. And those ecosystems are going to have these engines in the center to be able to drive everything. And I just wrote an article about it, right? Putting empathy and compassion in the model to be able to take the kind of things that you have created in part of this broader ecosystem to be able to help us lift 150.
Yeah. Love it. I can't wait. I hope I'm there at 150.
I mean, it's interesting. I'm in my late 60s, and chronologically, because of the stem cell stuff, I can ride 50 miles on a bike a day.
Really?
50. Yeah, 50.
Incredible.
Every day.
I'm shocked that I did not know you were late 60s. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like it. I mean, my wrinkles went away and everything because for all of you out there, listen, this wasn't a stem cell show, but I'm just telling you, everybody, people talk about Brian Johnson and all this stuff, but I've done it twice. Yeah. It works. If you got a problem, go ahead.
Was it for your kidneys?
But what happened? I didn't realize what it does, right? So that was only for my kidneys. I was concerned. It's because I took too many ibuprofens because I had a sciatica problem. What happened once I did the stem cells, all of a sudden, my sciatica went away within 6 hours. I had it for 30 years. I hurt my back in a judo accident. And my neck pain went away. My wrinkles, like within 6-8 hours, went away. It was like, and then I started having a lot more energy.
Yeah.
A lot more, like 20 years ago energy.
Wild. So the treatment for your kidneys just had a universal effect.
Well, because it went intravenously, and what it does is these exactly blank stem cells, mesenchymal stem cells that come from an umbilical cord. I had it 3 hours after the woman delivered. I had the stem cells. They went in and look for your body wherever there's damage and repair the damage. It doesn't matter where it is. Really wherever there's blood, it does it, whether it's in your heart, your lungs, your kidneys. Well, guess what? As you get older, they die off. And so what happened is it went in my brain. So it goes in, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and all of a sudden your neurons and synapses start rebuilding. It was unbelievable. It was like the movie Limitless.
Yeah. Really, though? Actually, from a cognitive perspective?
Yeah, really. For real. So I didn't bench it because I didn't think it was going to happen, but I am a psychologist. Yeah. And I'm just telling you, I can remember things when I was in sixth grade. Like seriously, like I can see songs on pages. You know, December 23rd, there was a song we sang. It says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have come from near and far. The very first thing we're going to sing and tell you who we are. The janitors of this building." It was a song that we did as a play when I was in sixth grade, and I
That's
see the
wild.
page in front of me.
That's
Seriously,
wild. Yeah.
not yeah.
You sold me. I'm in.
Yeah, well, you know something. I wasn't sold when I went over. I did it because I had to. The
Yeah.
situation is, I understand now that tools just like Trialite are going to fundamentally change our lives.
Yep.
People, all of us out there, have to get out of this freaking box and think differently.
Yep.
And if we do that, we're going to live longer. But the problem is, people don't do that. They're so concerned about step by step living life. They don't go out and look out of the box. That's why they die too fast.
Hmm. Hmm. Preach. No, I completely agree. And I think some of the things you mentioned with, the treatment for your dog, et cetera, that, it's only going to get it's going to get more challenging before it gets better, right? Like we can now use these large language models to go create individualized treatments and therapies for your dog or for an individual, or, synthetic drug development that's happening now.
Exactly. A hyper personalized treatment at a molecular level that's going to change things for us. We're
Yeah.
going to have, like, based on your DNA, this is exactly what you should do at this time. And then when there's CRISPR and other technologies, which I'm very interested in right now, by the way.
Yeah. And
And
it makes a clinical trial that much harder, right? Like they will only get more complex. So like the ability to go find those people that for that specific drug, I think it just gets harder. So tools like ours to be able to go find those people and then actually engage them and enroll them, it just becomes that much more important.
yeah, get involve the people that need to be enrolled. Why is
Right.
it like that? It's not like blind trials. Why not take people that actually are going to respond to the treatment and bring them in? You could do levels of probability of success. And then, hey, listen, we need to tweak it this way, in order for this to be able to work on you.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And it's getting better and better. It definitely is. So I don't want to paint a negative picture at all, because it is getting better and better. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different areas to dig into where it's problematic. But the one of the craziest ones to me when I got into this space was, I assumed clinical trials and the way that people got enrolled in these trials was based on kind of that physician relationship, understanding who the patient is. And certainly that happens all the time. A physician has a patient, they know the trial, they bring them in. And there's a ton of that, but there is a huge reliance on media, like Facebook ads, billboards, posters in a subway, and those things should be happening. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but a lot of these sites actually miss the people that are right under their nose. Like literally, people walk through the hospital that would be a perfect person to pull into this trial. They need it, you need them. And because we're not connected to that data and actually mining it effectively, running through it effectively, we have no idea. Like that happened all the time with the clinical research group I was working with. They would regularly say, like, we're sitting on a gold mine, we've got all this data here and we're not using it. And that's where the idea for me came from, is like, everyone knows they're sitting on this gold mine. They have their own patients sitting right in front of them that could be participants. And the data shows that 80% of people are interested in trials. Like they would actually, if you approach them intelligently with a trial that's a good fit for them, that they feel good about, they'll probably do it. So like, yeah, it's just, there's all these crazy, these totally insane disconnects. A big part of that, not to go too deep down a rabbit hole, but a big part of that has been a challenge with connectedness of data in this space and how siloed it's all been over the last many, decades. But that's only going to get better and better as we move forward. So yeah, exciting times ahead.
Now, you're doing a great job. Listen, we're coming up to the top of the show, and then once the show's over, stay on and we can talk a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are your closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So find me on LinkedIn. Happy to share my email if it'd be useful.
Yeah,
But
sure. Go ahead. Why don't you share it right now?
Kyle@trially.ai. Reach out if you're interested. Very straightforward. Trially, Trially. Yeah, but find me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat anytime. Yeah, just passionate about the clinical research space, about healthcare in general. one of the things that made us start this, me and my two co-founders, when we started this company, we're like, we've built this interesting engine. It could do a lot of things. We're good at synthesizing these complex criteria, synthesizing large amounts of data and making matches in the middle. We could turn that at many things. But for us, this was the thing where it was like, we could make a real impact here and actually care about the thing we're spending the next 10 to however many years of our lives on. And so, yeah, just excited about the space and excited to meet more people who are also excited about it.
Kyle, I want to thank you for taking time in your busy schedule to join us today. It's great. And, we'll have to do another show. This is great. And what you're doing makes us live longer, And for all of you out there, I appreciate you joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again in another half an hour with another exciting show, because I've got two today. All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Gary.